Okie doke. Well, happy Wednesday, everybody. It's almost Labor Day weekend. Very excited about that. Want to welcome you here on behalf of the Institute for Supply Management's Carolinas, Virginia chapter. We're one of the few out there that has a three-state geography here. But we're excited to have you all here. We've got the three A's, very nice. See, James, you might have something in common with these folks, with Alabama and A's, right? As you see here on the screen, I just wanted to share with you that we're part of the Institute for Supply Management here. And if you're not familiar with ISM, we're one of the first and largest professional organizations for the field of supply management, which includes supply chain risk, data analytics, sustainability, and of course, procurement. We're over 100 years old, and we're also we've got a series of thought leaders across the world. It's not just a US organization. And we're proud to have you all here today. The topic today is really about procurement first starts. Folks who want to get into the field may have a little bit of experience from your coursework. You've heard the term supply chain many, many times in the last 5 years. You're wondering, okay, what does it take? What's this all about? Well, I've got the perfect trio here for you. First off, I wanted to introduce a good friend of mine, Laura Mehalko. She graduated from North Carolina State University, their BS in Business Administration with dual concentrations in supply chain and marketing. She started off her career as a procurement consultant, much like Austin and I did, and and Austin's still doing it. And now, most recently, she and I had a chance to be co-workers at Align Technology, the parent company of Invisalign. And now she's switched over from the buy side to the sell side with a company called RightSpend, which is really a really awesome company in the area of marketing, from the marketing spend, helping companies right size and make best use of their budgets. So we're really excited to having her here.
Thanks. Nice to meet you guys.
Yeah. Next, we've got Austin Smith, a fellow troublemaker in the consulting world. Glad to have you here. He's a senior consultant at Deloitte with over 10 years experience in sales and operations planning initiatives within Fortune 100 companies globally. Has an MBA in management from the Poole School of Management at NC State University, also Wolfpack. However, he's also a Spartan from the Bryan School of Business, got a degree in economics. So we're excited to have him here as well. And then last but not least, our University of Alabama representative, James Udom, he's the founder of Didiya, an inventory redistribution software platform that enables retail stores and manufacturers resell their surplus inventory as they approach the shelf life. Seasoned supply chain management professional with a strong academic background and extensive hands-on experience leading strategic supply chain projects across the energy, manufacturing, and consumer products business. He's got his master's from the Manderson Graduate School of Business at the University of Alabama, and Bachelor of Engineering in Gas Engineering from the University of Park Court. So thanks so much, you three, for being here. It's a pleasure. So I'm going to hide my screen here about ISM, but one thing to keep in mind is there are student memberships available. So you can see here, and we also have some excellent opportunities to learn training, to get involved in our new certification program, the APSM, the Associate Professional Supply Management. I highly recommend looking into it and joining our great organization. All right, I'm going to stop sharing here. So let's get started. I've got a first question for the three of you here. Laura, why don't we start with you? What interested you about supply management in college?
So I actually started as a marketing major. My first internship when I was a sophomore, it was at the Kangaroo, like gas station convenience stores, which has now been purchased by Circle K. But the CMO at that time, he also had a heavy procurement background as well. And he was really involved with the interns, and he really kind of shaped the rest of my path in college from there, and really convinced me to do both procurement and marketing. And I'm really glad I did.
Awesome. How about you, Austin? What inspired you over at UNCG or even at NC State to go forward with this type of work?
Yeah, so very much like Laura, right? So I actually stumbled into supply chain, which I think a lot of people that is a very familiar sentiment that I hear a lot. I came to it actually doing the professional corporate leadership program at Lincoln Financial Group. For those that are at UNCG, they have a fantastic program. They are located downtown Greensboro. And it was just a luck of the draw. They needed someone to learn how to do reverse auctions on a procurement system, and they had absolutely no idea what that was. So I came in, I learned the system, and I was able to help the business use that technology. But yeah, kind of stumbled into it as well, Dupre.
Oh, wow. Hey, James, how about yourself? Didiya sounds like a fascinating company and definitely dovetails well into what we could use on the procurement side. What was that aha moment for you?
Yeah, for me, it was in my penultimate year during undergrad. And as someone who studied engineering, we had one of these courses, engineering management, and then we had another one, engineering economics. And I sort of figured out I'm not the operations person because I did petroleum and gas engineering. So I'm not the person who wants to go to the oil well. I'm not the person who wants to go off to the offshore platform. So for me, it was more like, oh, so what can I do with my petroleum and gas engineering degree apart from going to the offshore platform, apart from going to the oil well or the wellhead? You know, what can I do at the corporate level? So I tried to make use of the career center in my school, and they were exploring options. And then supply chain came around and we're like, okay, this is something that you can sit back in the office and then you can relate with every other person in the business, beginning from the operations guys, the finance guys, the procure, you know, it was something that puts you in the middle of it that you can still connect with all of these people. So that was how I stumbled upon supply chain management. So I started just leaning towards the management side of things. And then I now got this supply chain quality intern role in an oil and gas firm, but working in the supply chain department. And then we just started going from there, started, you know, working with their supply chain unit to help like international oil companies to get procurement and distribute these things to other oil servicing companies. And ever since then, it's been, you know, onwards and forward. That was just it for me.
How about that? So I'm going to go back to a follow-up question. So you studied some of the engineering economics, you said. Now, and you had those interests. How much of those became reality, and what did you like? What were your expectations, and then what really happened?
Yeah, for me, I basically just figured out one, I don't want to be the operations guy who is carrying machines and going to sites. And because of that, I just leaned into the management side of engineering. And since I did this petroleum engineering management course, so I started to dig deep. What is this whole management all about? And then I now figured I can still make use of my mathematics in the conventional engineering, but this time around in management. And it also was important to me because for me, I'm more of a people person. I want to communicate with people and not with equipment and machines like the other engineers who are out there on the site. So that was more like the hook there. But I must say that going into supply chain management, the whole engineering degree was not really, it was not really about the whole engineering degree. It was more like I had to take like, you know, some steps backward and then start from the very basics, start from understanding like the most elementary terms. But there was a catch there because at the end of the day, basic knowledge like mathematics, statistics, you know, they became very useful and I could relate with a lot of things as I started using tools like Excel. So it was easier for me to navigate because already my mathematics was up there. my economics and management knowledge, so I could see things from the business side of things, because I understood the economics and management side of things and not just the engineering side of it alone. So that was basically the whole turning point for me.
So Laura, what was what were you expecting, and then what really happened? I guess.
I know, because now I'm in a sales role, which is so funny, but you know, I feel like early on in your career, you kind of have just roll with it. And when you see opportunities, take them. You never know what, you know, is going to stick. But, and you guys know, being a consultant, that's almost like a kind of a sales role in its own right too. So, I don't know, it's interesting. I was consultant, then, you know, pure marketing procurement at Invisalign, and then now more of a business development role for a tool that helps marketing procurement people. So I don't know, I think you just need to be flexible or early in your career and see what you like, and yeah, keep options open.
You had some expectations, but then decided I'm just gonna go with it and be open to whatever comes, sounds like.
Yeah, well, and then I feel like in college they encourage you to, you know, go to larger companies, and so you kind of expect more of a siloed role, I guess. But I don't know. I mean, I've worked for smaller companies too, and you really can get such a wide breadth of experience there, and so totally different than you would expect at Invisalign, for example.
Sure. Well, so Austin, Lincoln Financial and Deloitte are pretty big companies. If I build on to what Laura said, what expectations did you have, like, after doing some reverse auctions, graduating and getting into the workforce?
Yeah, so I was starry-eyed, ready to take on the world, right? I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, which is in a lot of ways for the students on the line, it's kind of a perfect position to be in for supply chain. So so you're hearing a little bit from both my peers, and I'll echo what they were saying. Really, supply chain is cross industry, right? So that's one of the amazing benefits of choosing a career in supply chain. So some of my clients are from McDonald's, Walmart, Amazon, Apple, Toyota, Honda. So you can see that it really is very much cross industry. But I also want to point out, or go back to another point that they were talking about, which is being in supply chain is kind of like being your own entrepreneur in a way. So not to get into too many of the specifics, but you really can manage your own relationships with suppliers, with internal stakeholders, internal customers. I got my start in IT, essentially a hybrid IT role. And then I was able to get into things like contract negotiations, supplier spend, supplier analytics. So really, I guess one of the things I love the most about supply chain was it really is what you make it to be. And it is incredibly flexible, even if you start as a consultant and move into industry, or if you start like I did in industry and move into consulting. It really offers a ton of opportunities to pre.
So I can definitely understand that. Yeah, my first stop in career and my first start in sort of procurement was in government contracts, and my job was to help deploy people who were going to teach democracy in Iraq after Saddam Hussein fell. This whole weird concept of democracy, I mean, that just blew my mind. I said, sure, I'm happy to help. Let people, you know, choose their own path, in a sense, like you said, Austin, right?
Yeah.
And it developed into hurricane disaster relief, that the US government was helping another country and that sort of thing. Absolutely not what I'm doing now, but you get exposure to so many different things that I think, to combine, Austin, and Laura, your comments, is here are these opportunities that present itself. You can choose whether you want to embrace them, get scared, or just learn from it all, right? And I think we all become better people from those lessons in life. That's my opinion on the subject, at least. So Austin, I know we talked earlier about when it comes to the interview and hiring process, and I'm hoping that our guests here from VCU and UNC Greensboro are also interested in this. What's the interview process like from your perspective at Deloitte? And what types of interviews are there, and what do hiring managers want to know?
Yeah, no, a very important question, Dupre. So, the interview process, certainly when you're first starting out in your career, can be very daunting and very scary, right? So, you move, or oftentimes we move from an academic environment where you're given a syllabus at the beginning of the semester, and you just need to pass the exams and write the essays, and that's going to set you up for success into the professional or corporate world where things are a little bit more interpersonal. You certainly have group projects in undergrad, but it's a different type of environment, right? So, post the application process, those interviews can look and feel very differently. So they can range from one-on-ones with the hiring manager. Some interviews involve sitting down first with human resource departments to get a sense on how you would fit into the organization. And at Deloitte specifically, there are some, specialized interviews where we give some of our applicants case studies for them to prep before time. And we have them interact with peers or potential future peers in solving real world problems. And even outside of Deloitte, I've had a couple of interviews where I had to give a presentation for that interview to key stakeholders or executives. So it really comes in all different flavors and sizes and styles. So I know we'll also talk on the importance of being prepared, researching the company, and really getting a sense on what your values are and if they align with the values of the company.
Well, I think James is reading your mind here. Wanted to maybe get from your perspective, what's been your experience as an applicant? Or if you can give us a challenging experience, perhaps, and a successful one.
Yeah, as an applicant, I feel like there is so much uncertainty around the whole process, depending on, how you are going about the company you are interviewing with, maybe your background, and maybe what you are looking out for. Like I shared with you Dupre earlier in my career, I was applying to a supply chain associate role. And at the time, I already had my master's degree. And then I had the recruiter reach out to me and said, "Oh, we got your resume. And then we see you have a master's. This is an associate role. It's for someone that should just be in a fulfillment center, maybe sorting." And that was like my bad because I didn't know that's way below me. So there is that. And then other than that, most specifically, I know I've gone through interviews with FastNow, moving to Amazon now, and I've gone through interviews. There is this emerging situational questions that is really, it's the mainstay now for most interviews. Start maybe after you submit your application. Okay, for instance, let me talk about my Amazon interview process precisely. So you submit your application, and then you go through like an online test depending on the role. That test is around, for Amazon, for instance, is around the leadership principles. They have like this set of leadership principles. So they're just going to test you a couple of situations, and then they want to see how you are going to react to those situations based on their leadership principles, not based on what you think or maybe what you know or what you studied in school. Yeah, so the answer has to be based on their leadership principles. And then when you pass that stage, they're going to set up another call with a lead recruiter. And then that lead recruiter for 1 hour, for my experience, it's more like 1 hour going through like situational questions, more like, tell me about a time when you brought innovation to the company. And something very interesting about this whole process is that they are looking for data. How were you able to move the needle? Even if you move the needle by $1, or even if you improve a process by 0.001%. So you are not about to just go talk over their head. You need to really, in practical terms, show what exactly you did, what you changed. And what they're also looking out for there, they're trying to look for a fit, because interviewing is a two-way thing. The company is trying to find out if you are a fit, And then you too, you are also trying to find out if the company is also a fit for you, because sometimes our personalities might be different. You might your personality might not fit the company. So that's, for Amazon, that's a very long process, because you have like 5 hours of interviewing with 5 people. Yes. It's
5 hours.
Yeah.
I'm already tired thinking about it. Wow.
Yeah. It's a long 5 hours of they call it the interview loop. That's the last stage of it. So you have to go through that. And then after you go through that, they really make decisions very fast, most times in 3 to 5 days. And then they get back to you, and then you go through the onboarding process. So for me, basically, I feel like most times you start by identifying what are the kind of organizations you want to work for. And if you can match the values of those organizations to your own personal values or to your own personal mission, it's going to make all the difference. Because then when your values align with that of the company, then people say work is going to look like fun. But if you have contrasting values, then there might be a lot of struggle because you are not fit, So that's basically what the interviewing process is like. Try to identify the kind of companies you want to work for, try to find out what matters to that company, what are their values like, do those values align with your own value, then try to understand their interviewing process. There are so many ways you can do that. Like in my case, most times I just go to LinkedIn and look up people working in that company. People are always ready to volunteer their knowledge or experience. Alumni from different schools. Once you reach out to an alumni from your school, they'll be excited to share their experience with you. There are other platforms like maybe Reddit, other online platforms that you can just go, Indeed, Glassdoor. People are volunteering information there. So most times you need to rely on those kind of information to also build your case. And then you approach the interview with all of this knowledge, and then you can always fly from there. So that's what the process has been with me, for me, like interviewing different US companies so far.
Well, so I guess you've got to get some sleep, get a lot of sleep before that 5-hour interview is what I'm hearing. Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And make sure you ask anyone from Auburn a lot of really good questions, right? Just kidding. Just kidding. They're arch rivals. So Laura, building on what James talked about is, once you go through that process and then you get the offer, you accept it, and then there's the onboarding. What makes a bad onboarding experience and what makes a good one?
Well, I feel like I was very lucky to have started my career in 2016 before the pandemic. So I was fully in the office, which I would recommend for anyone first getting their start. It's so much easier to get to know your team, get to know the company, get integrated within the process. I feel like starting remote can be a really tough onboarding process. It's hard to get on people's calendars. You don't want to be a nuisance. There's only so much you can get from a 15-minute coffee chat remote. So I don't know. I would recommend, in person if you can, especially as your first job out of college.
Okay. Were there certain what kinds of things did you learn from those brief chats in person that helped you kind of move along?
Well, I was referring to like the 15-minute coffee chat, virtual coffee chat, but
Right. I meant in person, right? When you're in person there.
Yeah, no, in person, you actually get to know your peers and your colleagues, and you hear little tidbits about customers, or things that you just don't naturally hear when you're remote. So you're just more, I think, aware of what's going on in the company.
How about you, Austin? What have been good, some things probably to avoid, but then some things to really try to do when you just start out?
Yeah, so even at a 40,000 person company like Deloitte Consulting, right? I still had to fly up to Arlington to do an onboarding in person. So I just want to echo what Laura was saying there. So in your first couple of weeks, right? So if you think about it in your first like 30 days or 60 days, right? You want to start building connections and network. and that can be as simple as the digital coffee dates that Laura was talking about. But also I would encourage you to really get close to and get integrated in your teams, on your team, right? So your first, what they call a one-on-one with your manager is important, right? Because that's where you can ask them, how do you like getting feedback? How do you like receiving feedback? What does success look like on this team, right? You're going to figure out some of that through the interview process, but hopefully you walked away from that process being energized rather than depleted. That's a good sign that that's a good culture fit for you. And so getting an understanding from what success looks like for from your manager, from your team, right? And I would also strongly encourage everyone to get involved in some type of DEI equivalent or some type of communities within your company, right? So a lot of corporations nowadays are massive organizations, multi-state, in my case, multi-country. So you're working with a lot of different people and from backgrounds and countries, cultural differences. So it's always really a good idea to seek out within your larger community, smaller communities that you can start to build connections with, and that might come as simply as, I'm a part of the southeastern state DEI group, right? So that my company is so large that we have a small community for these three states, which, by the way, that is exactly one of the benefits of being an ISM, right? That's kind of one of the guiding principles. So that's, I guess, my initial thoughts, Dupre.
That's really helpful. Yeah. No, it's just really helpful. We're all about, it's about people, and we want to create relationships and perhaps even find someone who can mentor us. It may not just be your manager, or just folks. Hey, if you relocate to a new area, I know some folks who relocated to Chicago for work. I relocated to Atlanta for work years ago. Didn't know anybody. Hey, you want to go? Let's go grab a beer. Let's go get dinner somewhere. Let's go to a movie. We got kind of a group going to different places, and it made it more fun. It just just made it more fun, and you could start from there and get to know a new area. I think if you're at a client site, shoot, you probably don't know anybody in Virginia Beach, Virginia, or in Roanoke, Virginia, or Frankfurt, Germany, or something like that. It's nice to be able to say, hey, what do you recommend, and where, what's going on. So you don't really yet have a circle of friends locally, perhaps, but it really helps to get that.
Yeah, just one thing more, Dupre, on that's such a good point. So you often hear for the students on the line the old adage that people don't leave bad jobs, they leave bad managers, which to a certain extent that is true. But the data actually shows us that the number one critical indicator on people and retention is the number of close colleagues someone has within their organization, right? So, and again, back to what James was saying earlier, you want to work in an environment that gives you energy, that gives you purpose, and that has a vision, right, that you support. So, I know these are kind of buzzwords, a lot that we talk about here in society, but they actually kind of matter when you're spending 40, 45 hours, 45 plus hours a week at work. So.
Awesome. Well, okay, so you have everybody there. If you have questions or comments, please feel free to get off mute, and we'll make it very interactive. I wanted to kind of maybe follow up this before we really open up for Q&A. Is I've been asked this before, so I figured I'd pass it along to you folks as well. Perhaps, James, if you could maybe start this. If you could talk to your younger self while you were in school, what three things of advice would you give yourself?
Dupre, that's a very interesting one. What three advice would I give to myself? I would start by saying, build your interpersonal skills. Yeah, because most times I notice that when we are in school out there, most time we're trying to chase our grades, which in itself is a very good thing. There is nothing wrong with that, but as you move to the world of work, you get to realize that the world of work does not start and end with you having good grades. Good to have good grades, by the way. I mean, I graduated top of my class, but but you need to build your interpersonal skills because you need to relate with people. And when most especially if you're now in supply chain, so you are just sitting in the middle of the organization. So everything sort of finds its way to you from finance, operations, sales, marketing. You just have to relate with all of these people one way or the other. It's going to definitely be very, very helpful. It's definitely going to be very, very helpful. And then there is also the opposite of that. You also have to take your courses in school very seriously because sometimes there is also this misconception that what we learn in school completely do not apply to what we experience at work. That is not completely true. So sometimes you go to work and then you find out that the statistics class you skipped is just right there sitting in front of you. Maybe you have to do like a regression analysis for some supply chain, whatever. Maybe you have to learn like a software, maybe like Python. And then you find out that, oh, if you had doubled down on your maybe mathematics class or maybe your statistics class, then your learning curve would have been faster because you have like the foundational knowledge. So the way I see things that we learn from school, I see them like highly foundational. They just give you that base. They don't answer all the questions, but they give you that base in economics, base in management, in mathematics, in your English and all of that. So there is that too. And the third thing for me there would be very flexible. Try to stay very flexible. That's something most people miss. They are like so fixated on a one-off kind of career. Most times our career path it's not like a parallel line that just goes straight. Sometimes it goes up and then it comes down again and then it goes this other way and then it finds its way back. So you have to stay flexible and understand the trends. Things are changing on the speed of light now. I mean, about 1 year ago, AI was not a buzzword, but now everybody is talking about it. And whether we like it or yes, it's going to influence what we are going to do. So if I were to go back in time, I'll be more interested in what is happening. What are the trending things? I need to, be abreast. They call that commercial awareness. So I would love to be more commercially aware. Let me understand what's happening in the economy, what's happening in the market out there, because one way or the other, that's definitely going to affect my work and even the way I relate with people. So those are like the things that I will pay more attention to.
Sure. So when Laura hasn't changed, she hasn't aged, of course, right? But when younger Laura was there, what would you tell younger Laura?
Sort of what James was saying. Network. I mean, you can't over network. Add everyone on LinkedIn. I don't think I did as good of a job as I should have when I was in college. But you really bump into a lot of your peers in the workforce, and it's so much easier to move jobs when you know someone on the inside. Two, I think, everyone should take their time when accepting their first job out of college. Make sure it's a good fit. I feel like sometimes people just accept, the first offer they get and jump in, but, negotiate, understand your worth. Truly, procurement professionals, I think, recruiters expect procurement people to negotiate their salaries, etc. So don't feel like you shouldn't do that. And then three, not to be chachi, but start working on, certifications like what ISM has. It only makes you more desirable. And yeah, there's some good certifications available.
Awesome. Yeah, we got certificates as well, just for specific types of skills, be it cost analysis, negotiations, category management, risk, those types of things. So Austin, you get to wrap it up for us here on an advice to your younger self.
Well, it'll be pretty easy because I'm just going to be a bit of an echo here. So yeah, everything that's been said. So the number one most undervalued quality in a person that I look for when recruiting, and a lot of managers these days, given the pace of change in the world, is curiosity, right? You cannot put a price on being curious. It is curiosity that got me into supply chain, right? I had no idea what a auction, let alone reverse auction is, other than I guess eBay, if
Right.
those on the call remember that. And then yeah, and then that program asked me to move up to Philadelphia for a year and a half, and I did that on a whim as a very young guy, and just because I was curious to see what the world had. It's the reason why I decided to study abroad at undergrad. It's a reason why I have stuck with supply chain for this long, and now why I work for Deloitte. Being curious opens fantastic doors for you throughout life, not only in your personal relationships, but certainly in your professional relationships. And then again, I want to echo something that James said again. He stole my thunder. Um, uh, uh, Career progression, success does not move in a straight line. You will have ups and you will have downs. The first job that I had coming out of college was not at all what I wanted to do. I didn't think that my career would go any further than that. It was a fantastic start, but my role in the leadership program at Lincoln Financial Group was not how I entered the company. I entered it as a customer service representative, and that was a very, very wonderful start to what it meant to be in a large corporation. And over 10 years later, I'm now working at Deloitte Consulting. So just remain curious and know that success is not a straight line, like James was saying. So and if I was talking to my younger self, I would say invest a whole lot more money in NVIDIA stock, but I can't go back. So
I get
I'm
that.
happy to be here with ISM today. But yeah, that's it.
Awesome. Amir, thanks so much for your question. You want to go off mute and ask for us? And just your name and then what school you're coming from.
How you doing? My name is Amir Jordan. I go to VCU. So I was just wondering, how important is it to have mentors in your career? Because today, especially, one of my professors, he was riffing about how, having a mentor to kind of guide you through everything, would make it like not even like it make it like easier to propel yourself, within your career.
Well, mentors take different. I'll take some of this if it's okay, Amir. Mentors are. I look at mentors as basically a sounding board. Hey, I've got this. I'm thinking about this. I'm thinking about that. I heard this at a meeting. What does it really mean? I had that very conversation with someone I consider a mentor at my company. And they said, oh, well, we actually mean it. I heard two different ways to explain something. I say, okay, what exactly does this mean in our company's vocabulary? Because I looked at it from a different perspective, and they say, oh, it means going through, it's the savings we identified now, but the savings haven't really started yet because we haven't got that new supplier to do the new work versus the old supplier. We're still in the process of handing that over. I said, oh, got it. There are other mentors that help you kind of look in terms of maybe connect you with other folks to learn about a lateral move from looking in marketing as a category to logistics to facilities or data analytics. They can kind of help you as a connector. So mentors can take a different, mentors aren't just don't just help you with one thing. Plus, you don't have to be a senior level person to be a mentor to somebody else. We all have talents and gifts we can teach each other. Does that make sense, Amir?
Yeah.
Cool. Any other questions that we can answer for you?
I actually have one more question. So, I was wondering if like any of y'all had any projects that like the companies that you work with like
We're getting you in and out, Amir. Sorry about that.
Oh, sorry. My AirPods are not the best thing. So basically I was wondering if anybody was like given or thrown like a project at the beginning of their career that they felt overwhelmed by. And if so, if they can explain like the ways that they were able to propel through it.
I got too many to speak from. I'll leave it to you, James. James, any oh, I think we somehow we got some technical issues. Austin, you want to take it?
Scared him off, Dupre.
I know, sorry.
Amir, a ton that I could pull from, quite frankly. Some of which were not successful, right? And some of them were. So earlier in your career, I think it is incredibly important. Again, I mean, curiosity is certainly important, but it is also important to, I would say, know your place within the community and what value you're bringing to the table, right? So I work with, university students that are coming in from a ton of universities all the time, and some of them are incredibly eager to get started and get going, which is fantastic. Some of them are a little more hesitant to jump in. They want to get a sense of the space, the project, the client, right? Some of them will be very honest with me and say, I don't know what I'm doing. And some of them will kind of fake it till they make it, as some people would say. So I guess my piece of advice to you would be absolutely expect to, in your early career, have a level of comfortability with uncertainty as you get as you gain more knowledge and build your community, right? And also know that there are millions of people, even in supply chain, that are in the exact same situation that you are coming out of college, right? Your experience is not in some ways it is unique, but in a lot of ways it is not unique. And that is another thing why I would say being a part of ISM helped me throughout my career by being around like-minded peers and saying, oh yeah, oh, you struggle with that too. Okay, so it's not just a me thing, right? So yeah, Laura, I don't know if you have an example as well.
Yeah, and when you are early in your career too, just I would say don't be shy to lean on, more senior people in the organization, and no one wants you to fail, and this is also where your mentors can come in handy too.
Yeah, I think that the hardest thing sometimes to say is I don't know, but if you follow it up with I don't know, but I'll find out, you will win so much more street cred out there. That'd be my suggestion.
Thank you.
I think we have time for about probably one or two more questions. Anything else from you guys?
Everyone, can you hear me?
We can, yes.
So my name is Ellie. I'm a junior at UNCG, majoring in supply chain. And I had a quick question. I think, Laura, you mentioned about, sort of getting certificates that can really help you sort of early on in your career. And I was curious about what certificates you recommended the most. And a separate question is, what skills do you feel, especially early career supply chain professionals, should develop?
Yeah, so I have my CPSM through ISM, which is Certified Professional in Supply Chain Management. Dupre, I know there's a new one.
Yeah, I'll bring it up here. I'll share my screen. So yeah, we've got a new one. Ellie, you'd be perfect for it. It's the Associate Professional Supply Management. Let me share my screen. I'll show it to you here. Yeah, so this can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so this basically, as you'll see here, if you go to ism.org and you can see it, It's a new one for us, which is awesome. It helps you understand a lot of the basics behind procurement and many of the different capabilities that we need to demonstrate if we go into our first career, really into sourcing, but also data analysis, right? Because when you receive quotations or you see pricing or you see expenses that your company has on their books, you're going to be asked to try to find out, okay, read through the data and tell me a story from it, or look at a contract and help us understand. We need you to go after payment terms or duration of agreement or whatever it is, right? And then looking at if you look at then pricing for more than one company, you're going to need to know Excel or data analytics in general, Ariba, Coupa, one of those tools. This exam, it's with your degree and with taking the exam 1 of the CPSM or the CPSD certification, which is about a 3-hour experience. I'll say it was intense, but honestly, learning those skills in there is going to prepare you for a lot of things. And we've got also certificates. We've got certificate programs as well, where we can learn different skills there. But there's several other things, even in LinkedIn Learning. There's some great tools that you can get as well.
Awesome. And then sort of my second question about the additional skills you feel you should develop as an early career professional. What are some suggestions there?
Definitely finance and accounting, because what we do is we basically help your profit and loss statement. We help a company's profit and loss statement look good.
Okay, good to know. Thank you.
Yeah.
Can I just add one there, Dupre?
Please.
As well? Yeah. Well, first off, that is the number one most underrepresented skill set is the finance and accounting that Dupre just said. Absolutely, that is so critical. Also conflict resolution skills, right? So negotiation, Ellie, is, some people love it, some people find it to be incredibly stressful. So I don't know if you've ever went to go buy a car, but understand that almost every interaction you do in some way, shape, or form involves negotiation and conflict management, conflict resolution, right? So now you're probably asking yourself, do I go out and get into a fight with someone? How do I work on this? No, not at all. Please don't do that. Instead, it's about understanding yourself in social situations and group situations, understanding what you bring to the table from a skill set perspective. Some people are mediators, some people are just in there to fight and get a good deal. But at the end of the day, it's all about the idea of collaboration and expanding the ability for you to achieve more by working with others. That it is a soft skill, but it is a skill that will be incredibly helpful, no matter if you're in supply chain, but even beyond supply chain.
Sure.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah. Well, I think we're getting ready to wrap up here, but hey, go Spartans and go Rams. Really appreciate your time. Thank you, Laura, and thank you, Austin, for being here. I hope this has been helpful for you all. Feel free to check out ismworld.org or cv.ismworld.org to learn more about our upcoming events and our upcoming webinars that we'll be having as well. So thanks again, and have a great Labor Day weekend if I don't talk to you sooner. Bye-bye.